Welcome to the Hunt Fish Travel Podcast, the show that works really, really hard to interview folks that are going to provide you the information and inspiration for your next hunting or fishing trip. I am your hostess, Carrie Z. But before we jump into the show, I'd like to remind you that Spy Point is the show's biggest sponsor. They pretty much help keep the lights on, so be sure to check out the Hunt Fish Travel Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok pages for Trail Cam Tuesday photos and videos. They recently launched the Flex M. So this amazing little trail cam, let me tell you, is priced with the budget-conscious hunter in mind. I mean, let's face it, we all have to budget these days, and it really is the best value in cellular trail cameras right now. The Flex M, it makes switching to cellular easier than ever before by providing incredible quality. It's at an unbeatable price. It has true dual SIM technology. Yes, I'm reading this. The Flex M comes preloaded with 2 pre-activated SIM cards, which is awesome. It ensures cross-carrier coverage, which is even more awesome. It's on all major cellular networks, and it has continuous connectivity on the best coverage in the area. So the setup is simple. It's got mobile activation, on-camera buttons that allow you to format the required. It's got the micro SD cards, so I mean, you have to buy one, but I mean, they're like $10 if you go to Cabela's. You can go to huntfishtravel.com/Cabela's and buy one. You can take a test photo, works great, and the camera offers 4 capture modes: photo, video, time-lapse, and time-lapse plus. So it's pretty cool. This episode is also brought to you by Montana Decoy. I mean, they are my secret weapon for bagging both turkeys and deer. Check them out at montanadecoy.com. And of course, buy both Costa sunglasses and Radians Outdoors. Each of them have sent me gear that I actually use. I live for my Costa sunglasses. And the fact that they'll put my prescription lenses in their polarized frames is a lifesaver. You can always check out huntfishtravel.com/huntingcabela's, no apostrophe, for a list of all the products that I've purchased to use this year. And I just added some for camping gear. Welcome to the Hunt Fish Travel Podcast. I am your hostess, Carrie Z. This week, I am super excited because we are going to talk fly fishing. We are going to talk Deschutes in Oregon. We've got Dave Stewart, the host of the Wet Fly Swing podcast, on the line. He is a really unique guy. He is doing it right when it comes to podcasting. He's doing it right when it comes to fly fishing. He is doing it right. If you don't subscribe, well, you have many, many options because the guy has 83 different podcasts, I swear to God, to subscribe to. If you go to wetflyswing.com and check out the podcast, there are 6 options there. Dave, welcome to the show. Thanks, Carrie. Let's start with the big one, the Wet Fly Swing. Give us the rundown on that show to start off with.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we always start and end with that show because that's where I got started. Back in the day, 2017, when I thought there were already too many podcasts out there in the world, we launched this thing. And it's all focused on mostly fly fishing, although I have interviewed some hunting experts and different topics around the world. It's really 90% or so fly fishing related. So we interview a new guest each week, and then we pretty much kind of like you do, we travel around the country, around the world, and we listen to these experts, and then we try to help people, build their best trip of the year. Is kind of, I know that's your mantra as well. So that's what we're always trying to do. And so it's been great. I've been doing this for, I think 7 years now, and connected with over 600 of the greatest, guests out there in fly fishing and hunting as well. And I've got some stories to tell around hunting, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I think it's amazing because I struggle sometimes to find information. You can go on Expedia, you can go on TripAdvisor, you can go on Google, whatever, and you can search and you can come up with a lot of information or YouTube videos or blogs or whatever. But sometimes it's just easier when you're driving to the gym or you're going to the grocery store or whatever to just listen to an episode that gives you the actual step-by-step rundown on a location, all the actual information that you're going to need when you're planning a trip. And for someone like you to really drill down on a niche like fly fishing in a location, boy, fly fishermen y'all are like a cult. And the information and details that are needed for a fly fishing trip is bananas. I can give you the overview of a location, but I'm literally going to give you the high level overview. The details that you go into in some of these episodes is crazy. And it's really good information in these episodes that you're providing.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks. No, it is, I always start with, like listening, as I think all the great hosts are great at listening. They let the guests kind of, they're the experts. And, but I do love to simplify it too and say that fly fishing, I think a lot of people that aren't familiar with it, they think maybe it's too high level. Maybe there's too much gear needed. It's, it's too hard to cast, but actually it's a lot simpler than a lot of people think. So for those of your listeners who are maybe new to it or maybe have thought about fly fishing, why would you want to do it? I did put a little kind of a page together so people can a real easy steps to getting started. I could share that at the end or whatever, but don't oversimplify it. And I also culminated all of our 600 episodes at the time of the top 5 things we've heard most from all these people, and I put together that in a list as well. So we can talk about that as we go. But one of the things is to keep it simple. That's the best thing. You can literally go get a fly rod, borrow a fly rod, go into a local fly shop, hire a guy. There's lots of ways to get at it and just to try it and see if you like it. And I can tell you, most people that try it tend to like it and they tend to stick with it. But yeah, I think fly fishing, I think it always helps to have I always think of myself as kind of like Yoda, all right? You're like, I've got a listener who wants to do something amazing and I want to be his guide. Yeah. I want to help him have this trip of a lifetime. And, and if that's in Wisconsin for muskie, well, guess what? We put together this amazing trip and we have some people coming out there to hopefully catch their first muskie. If it's in Canada for steelhead, we're heading up to the Skeena Spay Lodge for steelhead, and we're going to one of the great places to have a chance at a trophy steelhead. So, I think I'm just an information curator, and I help people connect with the great people.
That's awesome. And that is cool because it can be very intimidating. I remember when I first started fly fishing, I was like, there's no way. No, I'm a worm drowner. This is, it's going to be too expensive. It's going to be too complicated or whatever. And then, like you said, once I really got into it and it wasn't that expensive to get started, I took a clinic, at downtown Milwaukee of all places.
Oh, nice.
Orvis put it on downtown and it was like a ladies clinic on a Saturday morning. And then they took us out to the Milwaukee River down there and it was so fun. And it was within an hour we were doing these crazy tricks. And I mean, it was really fun and then I was hooked. And
that's awesome.
So it's funny that you mentioned muskie. Like a couple of years ago, I got in the biggest argument with this guy. It was in Alabama. And he was like, people don't fish for muskies with fly rods. And I'm like, yes, they do. Right. Where are you from? Neptune? And he's like, he's like, it's amazing. It's only trout and it's only bass.
Right.
Bro, you got to come up north because it is a whole other level. Muskies, fly fishing for muskies is a whole other level.
It is. Well, and it's not just, that's the cool thing about fly fishing. A lot of people think just like this person you talked to, like, oh man, it's just for trout, but it's not just muskie, right? I interviewed somebody, Conway Bowman out of, on the West Coast, and he fishes for Mako sharks with a fly rod. And if you don't know anything about sharks, they're top of the food chain predators, and he catches these giant Mako sharks on a fly rod.
No way.
So it can all be done. And we've interviewed a lot of guests that have fished all around the world, Africa for, all these crazy fish. And you can catch anything these days because the gear is there, the lines are there, the tech is there. So it's pretty cool.
That's so cool. That's neat. I'm probably just, now that I have a bunch of episodes downloaded that I really want to listen to. And it's really, you have a really great resource. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, a lot of these. So talk about some of the other episodes the other shows that you have, because you have a bunch of newer ones. Like you just launched one in January and a couple of the other ones that you have going on.
Yeah. So I always think, always testing, right? I'm thinking like, okay, let's see what works. I don't want to get stuck. So we've been doing these schools now for a few years, and we've been reaching out to basically some of the biggest experts we've had on that really resonate with our listeners and with me. And I reach out to them and say, hey, would you like to potentially, after we do one of our schools, maybe host a podcast and see if you like it? And so we've done that. Now we have three, basically podcasts within our podcast. One is called In the Bucket, and that's all about West Coast steelhead. One is called the Littoral Zone. It's all about stillwater fishing. And that's Phil Roy. He's one of the great stillwater anglers. And the third one we have is called the Great Lakes Dude Podcast. So we actually have somebody who covers just Great Lakes. And Jeff Liskay is an expert angler. He's out of the South Shore Lake Erie, but he knows everybody in Michigan and all around the Great Lakes. So he's our resource. So now when somebody comes with me, to me with a question about Great Lakes, I just go to Jeff and I say, hey, Jeff, can you put this together? And so we're refining it. And so now it's not me interviewing everybody. I've got a little bit of a crew. And I think it just keeps it more interesting, even though I'm probably doing more, 80% of the podcast still. There's a little chunk where we're keeping it diverse. So that's kind of how it's working. We might expand to more. It is a lot of work when you teach somebody about podcasting, as you know. So there is a little bit of a learning curve.
Neat. That's cool.
Yeah.
So do you take requests, episode requests?
Oh, yeah, 100%. In fact, that's what we do that for our listeners. We say in this podcast right now, as I'm talking to your listeners, anybody right now who's listening to this, if they have an episode, some topic in fly fishing they just have to reach out to me, Dave@wetflyswing.com, and I will put that episode together for you. That's my guarantee.
Can Carrie Z from the HuntFishTravel podcast request
Let's hear it.
an Oahu bone fishing episode? Because I'm such a chicken shit. Can I tell you that we went to Oahu, I got all the gear, and I totally chickened out. I was going to try and do a DIY one, and I totally chickened out.
Right.
I was such an idiot. Like, I am not kidding. It's so intimidating. I'm like, I'm going to drown. I'm going to end up drowning. I'm not going out there. I had all of the gear, and I'm like, I'm going to drown.
Oh, man. Well, I will. First of all, I'm going to hook that up for you because but I will say right now, if you go to episode 116 of the podcast, okay. Hawaii fly fishing with Captain Rick Lee, bone fishing.
I found the Maui one. Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't Oahu though. So we will work. Yes. I'll work on Oahu for you.
Okay. Because I want to go back. I want to go back. We were just there for Christmas in 2022, and we go to Hawaii every couple of years. And I'm like, we go to Kauai more often. I don't know if they have bonefish in Kauai. I don't know, but I want to go. I know Oahu. They just are renowned for it. And the locals weren't very helpful. They were like, look at this stupid white blonde girl trying to bonefish.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I tried to do as much research as I could. I just am not familiar as a novice. As a green fly fisherman to begin with. And then I'm trying to figure out tidal pools and I'm like, I'm going to end up dying. I should probably not do this.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
So, yes, can I request that episode?
You got it. It's going in the queue right now. In fact, awesome. As I'm looking here, I'm starting to look. I'm guessing you don't have an expert. So what I do is I just kind of do the search and I say, you know what? There's a couple of things that pop up, Oahu fly fishing, and there's some things. So I'll do a little bit of research, and then I'll find an expert. I'll talk to some people. I'll probably talk to Captain Rick Lee and say, hey, who would be a good Oahu guest, and then I'll work back from there.
Oh, that's so funny. That'd be hysterical. That way, oh, man, that'd be so funny. Awesome.
It might take a while. The one guarantee is I can't say I'm going to have this next month, but hopefully this year I can put together for you.
That's so funny. That's all right. I think we're going back in 26, so.
Oh, good. Good.
We got time. We got time for me to not be so much of a chicken and for me to listen to it 100 times and prepare.
Oh, that's great. That gives me some good stuff.
You can drop me in the middle of a forest in South Dakota and I can find my way home and no problem. But man, you put me out on the ocean, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to go to the bar. It is a little scary though, right? Yeah. So what's your biggest fear on the ocean? What is your biggest fear about doing it out there? Well, I have a healthy respect of riptides and just, you know what I mean? I just really, it's just the fear of just being sucked out and drowning and stuff. And, I'm a good swimmer and everything, but it's just that fear. You just never know. The tides come in. There's a lot of people who think that they can go out and swim, and I have a healthy respect for Mother Ocean,
Right.
So
yeah, I hear you.
And I just don't know the lay of the land. You can look at onyx in a field, in Colorado or Utah or something like that. It's a little different than trying to look at navionics in the ocean.
Right. Oh, it is. See,
You know, it's a bit different. So, I don't know. It's just, it was just a little too intimidating for me as a Wisconsinite who's, you know, sees the ocean once every 3 years.
The flatland, right?
Yeah. Totally.
That's awesome.
Anyhow, getting back on track, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Oregon. So, I've never been to Oregon. I've never made it to the Northwest Pacific.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to. I almost went blacktail hunting a couple of years ago, and it just didn't work out. I've only done a handful of episodes up there, so I'm really excited to talk about Deschutes and tell me about the area and tell me about what you love about it and maybe like your favorite species or
I think it's
give me the rundown.
I think the cool thing is a lot of people don't know about Oregon, and really I guess Oregon and some of the Northwest is like Oregon is split. Everybody thinks it rains all the time, right? And it does rain a lot if you're on the west side. So, but right down like a quarter of the way in from the coast, there's a big mountain range, the Cascade Range, and it splits the state in half. Basically, everything to the west is the rainy side. It rains 100 inches a year. Everything to the east is the desert. So 3/4 of Oregon is actually a desert, and same for Washington and parts of California. So it gets, you know, not much rain. It's the desert, and that's where the Deschutes actually runs through the middle of this desert and flows into the Columbia River, which is one of the largest rivers in the country. A giant river that travels thousands of miles up through the United States, up into Canada, which is where the headwaters is. And you hear about all these famous rivers, the Snake River, the Deschutes River, all these big rivers that flow into the Columbia. So you have this massive river. So that kind of sets the stage of what it is. So when you go over there, like right now, it's July. If you were to go over there today, it's 100 degrees in the desert, and you're fishing for steelhead. You could be out there in your shorts, swimming in the water, and just having this unbelievable time and a chance to catch a steelhead, which is like a fish of a lifetime, a 10-pound steelhead or bigger. So that's kind of the stage. That's what I always think about. But there is a lot of diversity to Oregon. Like on the coast, you have winter steelhead. There's good trout fishing here. Like, if you think of Montana, you think of Utah, Idaho. I mean, we're all those western states have a lot of things in common. And so, and we have similar species, red band trout, red sides are common. The rainbow trout is a very popular species. We have lots of browns, and kind of everything. So, but steelhead is what keeps me fired up. If you ever have a chance to go for steelhead, you touch, that's what our name, the wet fly swing, is a technique in fly fishing where you're swinging the fly for a steelhead. And when you get a steelhead that's playing with your fly, a 10 or 20 pound fish, and then it finally hooks up and does a somersault cartwheel in the middle of the river, that's when you're blown away. Really?
That sounds amazing. Yeah. That sounds exciting.
Yeah. It is. It's pretty cool. So that's what gets me going. And then, I mix in a little bit of, the fishing and then a little bit of hunting when I have opportunities too. Not as much hunting though. So that's kind of how I roll.
That's so cool. I'm just looking on the rivers.gov/rivers/river/Deschutes.
Yep.
It's quite extensive.
It's 200 miles
beautiful.
Long.
Yes, it's really quite. So, you guys have mule deer, blacktail. Yep. What else out there?
Yep. We got elk. We've got, you name it. Hunting over here is great. We got pretty much everything you can imagine. We don't have a lot of bears. We do have black bears, but we don't have any of the, the bigger, grizzly bears really. But yeah, I know the guest you had. I can't remember his name, but he talked about black hunting a few years back. He had blacktail hunting.
Oh my God, the one that ran into the nudie camp. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. So mule deer, you got mules and blacktail. Blacktail are a little more of the west side species, but in the Deschutes area, it's mule deer, which is, pretty popular. Okay. And then we'll occasionally see an elk or two roaming through as well. You
guys have antelope?
Yep, and antelope too.
All right. Sweet. What species of turkeys do you guys have?
God, you know what? If I was a real good hunter, I'd know that, but I have no idea.
It's okay. Looks like, I don't know, that Google is not being cooperative right now.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's talk about steelhead. Let's talk about steelhead because that's what everybody tuning in wants to hear about anyway. Yeah. So what are the seasons? Is that it's fall Or do you guys have ice fishing there? No, the river doesn't.
Well, yeah, not. I'm trying to think. Do we have ice fishing? It's not something you hear a lot about. I think that's a little bit further up north. Although there might be some mountains in the range where you can get that, but no, I don't hear much about that. But as far as the timing for steelhead, I mean, it starts in the summer. Like pretty much right now, the fish are coming in. They're these fish have migrated thousands of miles into the ocean. And now they're turning back to come up, and so. This is basically they're going to be spawning next year. So they're coming in now in July. They're going to be in now. They're going to get built up. And then by the fall, by September, October, November, that's going to be prime time. There's going to be lots of fish in the river. Yeah. And so that's when the temperatures start to cool down a little bit. And you get this really perfect fall time. And that's also when deer hunting obviously is. So you got a chance to go for both. But so you kind of have that going. And then, even into the winter, you could fish for steelhead. I think most people stop fishing, in November for the most part, and let them, they're not eating really in freshwater, so they're living off their own fats, right? Yeah. So they have to survive until the next spring to spawn. So I think you play with them in the summer and fall, and then you let them have their time, into the get ready for their spawning time next year.
Sure. And then I'm assuming in the spring they're just voracious.
Yeah, the springtime, that's a good question, because springtime we do have winter steelhead, which is a little different life history, but come springtime, they're basically heading back out, right? So after they spawn, they're heading back out to the ocean, those that survive. And so there's not a lot of springtime fishing for them. Really, it's mostly a, summer, fall, and maybe a little bit of winter.
Really?
Yeah.
What is nymphing for steelhead? What is that?
Ooh, nymphing for steelhead. So nymphing so I told you about the wet fly swing. That's where you cast your fly out and let it swing down naturally with the current. Yeah. And basically your fly is just swinging. Well, nymphing is when you put on weight and you drop your fly down to the bottom near where the fish are, and that's nymphing. So you put some weight on. It's kind of like, if you had conventional fishing, you were putting a slinky on or something down on the bottom, right? It'd be a similar thing to that. So you're down on the bottom, nymphing. You use nymphs. Nymphs are actually a type of aquatic insect. Mm-hmm. So that's the bug when it lives down at the bottom. I mean, I won't get into the etymology, but there's a whole life history of bugs too, right? A bug lives on the bottom of the river for years, and then eventually it migrates up to when it's ready to hatch, and it comes to the surface, it hatches out, turns into an adult, and flies away, and then it turns around and comes back and lays its eggs back on the water, and that's how the bug life history kind of repeats itself. So a nymph is one stage of the aquatic insect's life, which is when it lives on the bottom, which is when 90% of the fish are feeding on bugs underneath the surface. But you think of A River Runs Through It. If you think of A River Runs Through It, everybody's probably heard of that movie, the great, Robert Redford movie in the 90s. Well, that was all about dry fly fishing, right? Because people saw the beautiful cast and the bugs hatching, and you have to catch a fish with a dry fly. So that's on the surface. So you've got these different techniques in fly fishing.
Do you guys have areas that are like closed off? Do you guys? Okay, so I have like 700 questions that have just popped into my brain that I'm trying to sort through, like the Rolodex flipping, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here in Wisconsin, right, we have a lot of like Trout Unlimited works very hard. Mm-hmm. We have certain sections of rivers and streams and creeks that they work very hard to section off for habitat. I'm assuming that you guys do the same, but these are like big freaking rivers.
Yeah.
Do you section off areas as well for staging areas that they can have sanctuaries and protected areas for these guys?
Oh, right. Yeah. I think partly, I know there's like, say, spawning, right? You see that sometimes where you're out in a river and there'll be signs that say, hey, these fish are spawning here. Don't fish for spawning fish, right? So that's a good thing to do because you don't want to, they're trying to reproduce and make babies so they come back for years to come. So that's one thing. There's also situations where maybe there was habitat damage. I don't know what that, there's all sorts of situations, but there might be an area where a stream is being, restored. And so those areas also might be protected. And then there's also just regulations of, where you can and can't fish. And I don't know all the details in every state, but I think it's probably something like that where they're probably doing something specific around either restoration or fish, spawning or kind of life history behavior.
Right. Because it's interesting as I just kind of Googled Deschutes River steelhead maps, and I'm looking just at images and stuff. Man, there's some beautiful images that people have posted. in magazines and blogs and just on social media and such. And I guess one of the things that stood out to me as a Wisconsinite, because many of our trout are not naturally reproducing. We do a lot of stocking here, and I don't see a lot of that. But that's why we have to work so diligently on habitat protection and such, because they're not naturally reproducing, so we have to assist them as much as possible. Where it looks like there's not a lot of that in the Deschutes. Just I'm assuming because they do come in and they don't need the help like they do here in Wisconsin. Man, these are big frickin' fish too. Like they're big.
Right, there's some big ones.
They're big fish. Like some of these photos are amazing, and now I really want to go west.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're looking at steelhead or rainbows, but we do have
steelhead,
like those red sides.
Yeah,
you're looking at steelhead. Yeah, they get massive. I mean, if you get a 10-pound steelhead on, that's a fish of a lifetime for most people.
They're beautiful too. They're so pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because really, it's essentially a steelhead is just it's a rainbow trout. It's just the only difference is between a rainbow trout, same species, right? Only difference is that this one migrated to the ocean and grew really big, and the ocean and came back, right?
Yeah, right. We man, these are cool, and So does your whole family? Tell me more about your family. Are you married? Do you have kids?
Yeah. Megan, we have two little kids, Megan and I, and they, they're 10 and 12. And, it's one of those things where I've never put a lot of pressure on my kids to be the ultimate fly, kid. Mm-hmm. So I haven't pressured them, but, they have their fly rods and they can cast a little bit, but we love the river trips. I think that's the one of the things we do a lot of. So, this time of year is Deschutes time. It's been kind of a bummer because there's been a lot of fires. And as we speak, there's like a big fire over near the river. So we've postponed our trip because of the smoke and everything. But that's it. We're always kind of looking at what our next destination is. And in fact, this is the cool thing I love that you said that, because this year, the Wisconsin trip, we're actually driving from Oregon to Wisconsin at the family. Shout out to Four Wheel Camper, our sponsor. We're gonna have a 4-wheel camper on the back of the pickup, and we're gonna travel across the country, and we're gonna meet up in Wisconsin in the Driftless area with everybody who paid for the trip, and then we're gonna have this amazing experience with everybody there. So we're doing a family / kind of trip, a business trip, I guess.
What fun! That's so cool. Yeah. Oh, that's a long drive, man. That's forever.
I know. We're gonna take our time. We're gonna swing by. We're gonna head up to Montana. We're gonna stop. I had another sponsor on the Missouri. We're probably gonna fish the Missouri, and then we're gonna head over to probably the South Dakota. Maybe you could tell me the good places to stop. We're gonna make it spend some days. We're not gonna do it overnight or anything.
We turkey hunt. One of my first real dates with my boyfriend was literally me calling him up and being like, so I know we kind of just met, but I'm in South Dakota. Do you want to come out here and go turkey hunting with me? And he's like, oh, nice. Yeah, sure.
That sounds awesome.
and then he was like, I love this woman.
He's like, I've never been you can't beat that.
He's like, I've never been turkey hunting before. Yeah, okay. In South Dakota. I'm like, wait till you see the Black Hills. They're amazing. And we go every year we go back because we.
So the Black Hills, Hills are worth it.
Love them. Oh my God, love them. Nice. That whole area. If I could afford a second home, it would that be there.
The stop? Would that be if we were traveling through South Dakota, we should definitely stop at the Black Hills.
I will send you the best place. I will send you a list of the best places to eat.
Oh, good.
Stay. Custer State Park. I mean, just amazing. Oh, just
that would
amazing.
Be awesome.
The best steaks.
Yeah, you're helping me.
I'm telling you.
I'm calling you for a show. This is the HuntFish Travel Show.
Yes,
so I'm going to ask you. You're going to help me put together our trip.
Right. And if you don't want to stay in the camper, but you want to stay in teepees for a night, oh my God, I have the best place.
That would be awesome. I'd love it.
Oh, we do.
It's going to be hard to get out of the 4-wheel camper because it's got a king size bed up top. But I'm sure we can probably.
Don't stay in the teepees. Put the kids in the teepees for a night.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because you'll be going right through that whole area. Oh, I love the Black Hills.
Nice.
We want to get out to Montana too. That whole area up there, big sky, and yeah. You guys are that's gonna be a great family trip. What fun.
Yeah, we're excited.
What fun. Well, you told me that you had a very interesting cast and blast story. I need these details. You got to tell me the story. Give me the tea.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is that we've been talking about already, kind of talking about the area. So this is a trip that I've been doing my entire life. My dad was a guide on the Deschutes River, as you know, before I was even born, and I grew up around a little fly shop, his shop, and he was a guide on the Deschutes. So I've been on this river my entire life, and we've been hunting it too for the whole time because, you know, it's a lot of people, you know, some people don't realize it, but it's got mule deer, and it's not, I being honest and tell you, the hunting is it's not easy because we're hiking up and down these 2,000-foot mountains, you know, we basically float down the river, we camp at a spot, and then we basically hike up on opening day and during the week up and down these mountains to find deer, you know, using the spotting scopes, find deer, and then we put a hunt on them. And so sometimes it's hot, you know, especially with the way the climate's been changing. You'll get times, you know, it might be 90 degrees up there, so it can be scorched and stuff too. But the cool thing is that if we do get a chance to get a deer down, now you've got a deer, but the challenge is that you've got to get that deer out of the mountain. Sometimes they're down in the bottom of these canyons, and you've got to drag them, get them however you can do it down to camp, right? And so that's setting the stage of what this is not easy to do. And so that's the reason why a lot of people don't do it, because we've seen people come and try it and been like, wow, this is a little bit of work. But so the cool thing this year on this story was it was the first time I did it with my family. I mean, we've been down the river for, you know, fishing and just boating for years, but this is the first time we really did deer camp, right? And so it was, you know, Megan and I and the two kids. And one of the biggest challenges was they were, I think, 9 and 11 at the time, was, you know, what are we going to do with the kids? You know, are we going to leave them next to a giant river with rattlesnakes and, you know, and ticks to fend for themselves for the day while we're out hunting? So we started for opening morning. We went up together, you know, and obviously with anybody that knows that has kids will know that it's hard to keep them quiet, you know. And so we didn't see much the first day. We hiked up the hills and all that stuff. And then it was cool though, because halfway during that hunt, we were on our way down. The kids were ready to go back to camp. And as we were going down, I saw a couple deer. And I was teaching my kids a little bit. I got out the binocs, and I was like, oh, okay, we got some deer. And I put a hunt on them. I said, all right, you stay here on this rim rock. They're up about, you know, probably 1,500 feet. I said, you wait right here. And they watched me put this full hunt on these deer. And I, you know, did the full thing and got down and got within range where I would have had a shot at them. And when I got there, you know, I looked up and there were no bucks. And so I didn't take the shot. But my kids saw it happen, which was pretty cool. And then, you know, and so nothing there, and we worked back down to camp, and we all got back to camp, and we kind of had a beverage, you know. I think it was pretty hot that day, and we just chilled out under the shade next to the river and probably swam. And so that was day one. And then day two was back up there again. I ended up getting a really nice buck, and I had to drag it out myself. So the challenge is when you get a big buck, you know, whatever 3-point, these are pretty hefty animals. They can weigh, you know, a couple hundred pounds. So when I'm on my own, which usually I'm up there, this used to be like a guy's trip, you know, with the guys. And typically I would have friends I'd radio like, hey, I need help with this deer. You'd get help. But for this one, I had to carry this thing out myself. And so it was tough. And then Megan came up about midway with the kids, and they helped us get it out. Right. But it was a lot of work. And literally the next morning we got it back to camp. It was unbelievable. The next morning, I literally was like, I don't think I can walk. You know, that's how sore I was. And I didn't think I could get up. And then Megan, but she had gone up hunting, right? So she didn't get one. So third day, she goes up on her own. I'm like, yeah, go for it. I'll be here. And once I got up and started walking around, I kind of like, okay, I can do this. And so we're at camp hanging out, and she's out there hunting, you know, somewhere on top, you know, way up there. And I can't remember if we heard the shot. I think we did hear a shot. And then we got the radio, and we heard, and she basically said, you know, she thought she got one. You know, long story short, we waited for that. She had to hike across the hill down and up to find out where she shot at the animal. She gets there, and boom, her buck is laying dead. She got her first buck, and she shot it with, yeah, it was pretty cool. And she shot it with a crazy shot. We're going to go back this year. That's where we're going to take the rangefinder and go back to the same spot to calculate how far it was, because from the sound of it sounds like she shot this thing across the canyon, a super long shot, dropped it with one bullet using my 308 Winchester, this old school, rifle with scope, awesome. Like lever action. There's a gun my dad gave me when I was a little kid. And it was one of these crazy stories. So she gets this animals in, and I hike up there. I finally get up to her, and I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And we do the whole thing, gut it out, and we drag it back down to camp. The kids are there the whole time. We're doing this thing together as a family. We get it down, to the river. We get the drift boat oar. That's how we pack it up, carrying down the trail to get it back to camp. And we get this back to camp, and we're sitting there with two tags. We're tagged out. First time hunting with the family. The kids, here's the other way, the big thing. They stayed at camp all day long by themselves. One of the days when we were hunting. So that was the other big thing, was that we were like, oh my gosh, we just left the kids there and they didn't kill themselves. So now we were like, you know what? They're good to go.
Right.
Although we did hear some stuff on the radio about the kids fighting and stuff, but still they did this thing. So now the kids are good. And we're sitting there with two bucks, and we floated out with 2 bucks in the back of the drift boat and just had this amazing trip. And I was just thinking, like, 40, I'm almost 50 now, but in all my life of hunting 40 plus years, that was the greatest hunting trip ever, and it was because I think the family was there. And so that's a little bit of the story.
That is so cool. That is cool. It's always cool when you can, oh my God, I can't even imagine taking 2 kids, honestly.
Yeah.
My boyfriend has
they're
2 small, well, they're not small anymore. They just turned teenagers, and a teenage daughter, and they're good kids, but I cannot imagine, much less if they were like little. Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh God. So kudos. Good kids. That sounds like they're really good kids. Well, kudos to her. Congratulations to her. That's so cool. What a cool story.
Yeah. It is cool. Yeah. The only downside I will say is that carrying out, if you haven't done this before, carrying a 200-pound deer on an oar on your shoulder, if you don't do it right, you can get a little sore. And she actually tore her something in her shoulder, so she literally was out of commission for months. So she had to have physical therapy. Yeah, it was really bad, but she got through that. Yeah, so that was one bummer. But shout out to another sponsor. We need to find a sponsor with a cart. That's what we need, a deer cart. So we don't have to. Yeah, that's what we need.
Right. No kidding. Do you guys have a lot of early season, like, warm weather hunting out there by you? Or you're not getting me out there when it's hot. I will die. I will melt.
No.
I'll be cranky.
Yep, we do. That's nice about Oregon is we don't get the extreme cold, like super below zeros. But you can fish in January. You can sit in the middle of January. I've fished many times, sunny. It feels like summertime, especially if you're on the coast, because it'll be 60 degrees on the coast in January.
Oh my God.
What I mean? So yeah, there's tons of, Oregon is not California. It's not like that warm, but it's mild. You can fish year round in Oregon. That's one of the great things.
That's interesting. I suppose you get that Pacific air, those trade winds and stuff. That's neat.
It's mild. It's the only temperate rainforest in the world is what it is.
That's really interesting. That is interesting. I guess I never really thought about that. I guess I just assumed that because on a linear level, you guys are horizontally like this, like straight west, just from us. But
we are. Yeah,
how does that work? How do you guys? How does that work?
It must be the marine. Screwed? It must be the marine environment, I guess. And the desert.
Cool.
I mean, we obviously have this rain. It's the same thing as Colorado, right? You go to Denver, it's got the rain shadow effect. We get the same thing with our east side. We have the mountain range that creates a rain shadow, so it's a desert on the east side.
Yeah. Very cool. That's so fun. Well, tell the listeners a little bit about the clinics that you have coming up in case they're interested. Are they sold out? Or if they are, will you be having some for the next year?
Yeah, we will. So we have right now the Muskie is sold out, Driftless is sold out. We still have the Stillwater School, which is going to be happening. I'm not sure when this is going to go live, but that's happening in early October this year. There's still a couple spots left for that, and then we will be doing this again. So if anybody's interested in the Muskie or anything we do around the country, they can just email me anytime, and I can follow up with them. And the other cool thing is, like you said, I get those questions a lot, like, hey, if I'm a complete beginner, should I be going on this school or this clinic or whatever? And, our people that put this on, whether it's Phil Roy doing Stillwater or Jeff Liskay doing Great Lakes, they're the best. So they can take a complete newbie, even if you can't cast, and they can teach you how to cast, and they can do the whole thing. So these are schooled for really anybody. And the best thing would be to reach out to me and check. We also have a website, a new app we're launching that hasn't got out yet, but it's the School of Fishing. So this is our educational app where people can actually get all the online content. So we're going to have an app where people can sign up and they will get access to online content. Some of it will be paid, some will be free. So that's another resource that we have that's coming soon.
Nice. Very cool. I was just on the schooloffishing.co website.
Yep.
And tooling around there. There's a lot to take in on that website. There's a lot, and we're still organizing that we're launching an app on Thinkific, so it's all going to actually be on Apple and Spotify or at Google, the Google. Mm-hmm. And so that'll be a really easy way that we don't have any content really on the School of Fishing. That's more focused on the trips right now. Right. Very, very, very cool.
Awesome, Carrie. Well, thanks for all the time. This has been great, and excited to keep in touch with you.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.